link in just a second. Well, that was my fault. I just reposted the link, and hopefully folks will join back in a second. My sincerest apologies, friends. I told you this was not going to be the easiest thing in the world, but hey, here we are. Hopefully we get everybody back. I'll wait for a few folks to join back in before I jump back into that question, because I am a chucklehead. So let's see what else is happening, friends. We'll give it a couple of minutes. Let's see. I did just post the new streaming code or the new streaming link in the Patreon. I hope that folks do find that. Let me post that in the community chat over there as well. Let's see. Whoopsie. Yeah, that's all. I'm just making sure that you guys are paying attention, man. I appreciate you guys finding your way back into it. Oh, okay. You think you're going to be at the Mark Adams or at Mark Adams the same week? Oh, I think there is a guitar building class going on that week. That's awesome. That would be a ton of fun. I've met a couple of folks there last year when I was teaching. It's a great place. If you've never been there before, the place runs like a well-oiled machine. It's really fantastic to see what they're capable of doing. Let's see. Give me one extra minute. I'm going to go back into that post I did earlier and update the link to the one I just created if I can. Let's see. Okay. Hopefully that ends up working out for folks. Oh, nice. I forget that they're that close to there. Folks are asking for the new link. They are correct. I am a disaster right now. I apologize, friends. Let's see. We'll get back in here. We'll re-edit, put a different link in here. We're almost there. We'll listen. We're going to get through this together. My partner's over in the corner laughing at me because I'm an idiot. All right. We've got folks back. I think folks are good. Updated links. Hey, we're back in action. I apologize for my technical incompetence, friends. I have the ability to make things out of wood, but host a live on the interwebs, apparently, that's above my pay grade. Let's see. Random call back to Northern Living and Carpentry Schools. I passed by a giant woodworking guild taking family to the airport just south of Pittsburgh. Nice. Okay. All right. So, as I was mentioning before, to Michael's question about the veneer, I'm not going to screen share anymore. So this was a thing that we faced all the time. And Michael, chime in, please, because I don't remember how you said that you were going to cut those veneers. I remember talking about them. So let me know whether that was the shaper or whether you did that on a laser cutter or what. When I was working at a place called Paul Downs, we did a lot of centerpieces. That was the place I was making those big, like 40-foot tables for massive companies. And everybody wants a logo in the middle of their conference table, rightfully so, right? They're paying, 40, 50, 60, 100 grand for these tables. So they want their logo in it. And they were always laser cut. And sometimes, we're using exotic veneers. So you only get one chance at cutting these logos because you don't have enough veneer to do it a second time. So in those instances, we always cut the veneers a little too small. And it's been a hot minute, but if I recall correctly, the way that we did that on the laser was we moved the laser slightly further away from the veneer so that the focal point would widen and cut a wider curve and make the veneer parts, the positives and the negatives, slightly smaller. And so what that means, of course, is that there's going to be micro gaps in the inlay itself. So first things first, taped it all up, got it prepped, flipped it, retaped the front side, and then we pressed it down. Now, the act of gluing it, because we were using a water-based glue, would often swell those fibers enough to take care of some of those gaps. But if it didn't, we always started, when you're using multicolor veneers like you are in this moment, Michael, the first thing is I would never sand it, because the act of sanding is going to do exactly what you're experiencing, which is transfer the dark sawdust of the walnut to the pores of the lighter wood in the maple. And so you're going to get those deep, what looks like staining, but in actuality is just whatever tiny undulations is happening in that maple. Those are filling the open pores on the downslope of the undulations. So we would scrape it instead. So I would grab a card scraper, grab a card scraper and go to town on the surface and get it nice and flush. And because you can scrape in any direction, you also have the capacity in that case to spread the fibers, right? So if I've got a gap on this side of my line, I can scrape in that direction in the hopes of opening up those fibers and closing those gaps. So that's one option. Once I scrape it down, and I understand you feel like you're already kind of getting a little too close to the substrate. Once I've scraped what I feel is enough material, everything's flat, everything's flush, I might take a sanding block with like 320 and just scuff it a little bit so that it accepts finish more evenly. But then I'm going to take a piece of walnut and I'm going to actually create sanding dust apart from the, like, how do I phrase this? I'm going to take a block. I'm going to take some sandpaper and I'm going to rub it, and I'm going to have a piece of paper underneath to catch all the sawdust so that I can then take the sawdust and rub it in the gaps. I don't use glue when I do that. There's nothing wrong with that trick. It does work. And there are certain instances where it's a good decision, in my opinion. But I think overall, the problem with that trick is you can often get glue staining. And in your particular instance, you run a much larger risk of spreading the glue onto the maple and then spreading the sawdust fibers from the walnut onto the maple and creating a sticky slurry of dark sawdust. And we don't want any of that. So oftentimes when I fill in gaps like that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rub the sawdust in there, close the gap, and then put a coat of finish on it. And then if I need to, like, if that washes away a little bit of that sawdust, I'll do it again. I'll add in a little bit more sawdust and put another coat of finish on there, and that will fill those gaps. So, that's how I tend to handle it. Michael, did you just get back? I just answered your question. Hachi machi. Okay. Hey, you know what, Michael? You and I can have a longer chat about that because it's a good question. Basically, what I said is don't apologize. I'm the one who ended the call. Scrape the surface with a card scraper to avoid spreading the dust into the fibers of the maple. And then I don't use the glue and sawdust trick. I just rub the sawdust in there and finish over top of that. So, at some point, let me know when you need to finish that call or finish that piece, and we can jump on a quick call and talk about that for 10 minutes. So it seems like most folks are back in the call now. Let's see. Let me know. Ed's back. Aaron's back. I'm going to post the new link in the right space for folks in the chat as well, because I'm a dingus. All right. Okay, we got folks back in the house. Again, apologies for my general technical incompetencies. But yeah, Michael, that's what I would do is I would use a card scraper and then I would create sanding dust separately and rub it in those gaps, throw a coat of finish on. And by the way, doing that will also seal those pores so that when you go to resand it after the fact, you're not going to be spreading the walnut dust into the maple pores quite as readily. So that's the way to do it. You've never used a card scraper, buddy boy. If you're going to be doing a lot of veneering, become friends with the card scraper. That is a necessity in this work. Let's see. So, next question for you guys. I'm curious how you feel about this. I was making this box. This is a box. I just made this thing today. It's a nice little ghost maple and rosewood box, and it's an integrated split lid. I didn't do the typical liner just to have a different technique. And because, listen, full disclosure, the reason I made this box is because I owed SawStop a video as part of the sponsorship deal. But my intention with this box was to make it a giveaway item for you guys, as just kind of a thank you for being my patrons and supporting me this year. And I still want to do that, but I don't know how to do that fairly. And I was also considering, is there a way to, or I should say, as a secondary option, is there a way to make it a fundraiser for something like the Katz Moses Woodworkers with Disability Funds, like we did last year? Because I think that was a really worthwhile thing to do. So I don't know. Like, tell me what you guys think. I'm happy to dive into how the actual process of making that, Brian. And Steve, no, I don't. It's a little too small. Actually, fun fact. So many months ago, I did an ad for an online video game, which I kind of a little bit regret, if I'm honest. But the box that I made for that is now the box that hangs on my wall right there, and that actually is where I store my whiskey in there. So that's a good way to do it. Maybe next year I'll do like a proper whiskey box. That's an excellent idea. Let's see. There are many sizes of bourbon. That's true. I was thinking, see, Chris, I was thinking about an auction, but I don't. Here's what I want to be. It is a stash box. What I want to be cognizant of is that you guys already offer your money, your hard-earned money, to be a part of this Patreon community and to support me in my work, and I'm deeply grateful for that. So I guess I don't know how to. There's a part of me that it feels wrong for you guys to pay to be a part of this community and then ask you to pay more money as a thing that you can win. You know what I'm trying to get at? Like, I don't like if we take it out of the Patreon community and like make it an Instagram fundraiser or auction, that I'm perfectly comfortable with. But I don't know. Tell me how you guys feel, and we can kind of workshop how to do this together. And if we decide that it's a thing where we just want to keep it in the Patreon community and do a giveaway there, that's totally fine. I'll figure out what the best way to do that is. Auctions are often tricky with the state laws. That's absolutely fair. So while we kind of figure that out in the chat, I do want to hear your opinions on that. Brian, to answer your question about how this split lid is done, I often do a liner because I think it just creates a really nice contrast on the interior. The downside to this method is that the inside is just kind of plain. You can do something nice with the bottom, but the inside is just kind of plain, in my opinion. But if you have a tiny box and you need to keep that internal space, what I've done, where's my notebook? Because I drew this out for the video. Basically, here's how this works. If this is so hard to do in mirror image, this is my box wall when everything is just a straight piece. And I'll cut the groove for the bottom. I'll cut the groove for the top. Those typically are just done at the same distance from the top and bottom to make it more economical. And then I'll establish the size of my top. So the top of this groove here is the width of my top. That's that distance right there. Then that groove is going to remove the material that exists on the inside of the lid. Then there's so that I just make that 1/8 of an inch because it's the width of a blade. And then there's a space between that groove and this groove. From here to here is 1/8 of an inch. And then that groove ends up becoming the groove on the outside of the bottom. Now, the key to this is that both of those grooves have to be exactly halfway or just slightly over halfway for the thickness of the walls. And then once I glue the box together, I cut my miters, et cetera, et cetera. And then I can cut right in between there, which is 1/8 of an inch. And that ends up producing that. When I first glue the box together, it looks like this. And then by cutting the box open, that removes that 1/8 of an inch, and it ends up creating this fall over. So it's a very simple technique once you kind of wrap your mind around it. But it works really nicely. So if you do have a tiny box, and I've done this many a time in the past, if you've got a tiny box and you don't want to add a liner because you're going to remove a lot of space, then doing that technique is golden. Let's see. Jeremy, are you on an airplane right now, dog? First of all, I need to know where you're going. That's wild. I didn't know. I didn't even think you could stream from an airplane. I didn't think Wi-Fi was that good. Let's see. How does the shaper do their wheel thing? Lewis, I don't know what that means, brother. Does the shaper do their wheel thing? It's a circle. I don't know what that means. Let's see. If you do an auction for it, why not level it up a tiny bit and add a chisel or two? That's a great idea, actually. I'm gonna think about that because that could fit like a nice little tool. I don't know. Like maybe it's a little plain box. That's an excellent idea. Let me think on that. Maybe I'll hold off on this then for a little while I think about kind of what tools I have that could be a part of an auction. Sure, I've got some old planes. Do I have an old block plane that could be worth doing that? Damn, that's a good idea. That's a very good idea. Let's see. I asked Eric that question once, and he recommended to me James Tolpin by Hound and I. Yes, that is. What was the question? I must have missed it. I apologize. So, yes, by Hound and I is one of the best books out there on design in general. It is. There's a book called By Hand and I that is way more information than you'll ever need about proportions in designs in line. And it's brilliant, but it's very dense and very dry. So what they did was they took By Hand and I and they kind of made like the idiot's guide to that book. And it's called By Hound and I. It's this fictional character teaching his dog all about design. And that is the perfect amount of information and in a digestible way to understand the basics of furniture design, of rhythm, of proportions, and line. And I think that might be one of the best design books out there, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't know what the original question was, but definitely worth taking a look at and buying. Shows what a true pro sharpened chisel should look like. That entirely depends on the chisel, brother. I mean, listen, I've got those are my fancy chisels, right? Those are the ones that I use for the absolute precision work. These are my beater chisels. And by beater chisels, I literally mean the ones that I beat on with a hammer. If I take a mallet to a chisel, it's one of those. And then those are my old Wood River chisels, which I had the extra wide ones of. So I think that's 1.25 inches and 1.5 inches. And Joe actually has the rest of that set. But I needed the wide chisels. Let's see. But anyway, the point is that those are all sharpened at different levels because I use them for different things. Just do a random number generator thing. Life is not fair, and the whole thing is there as a single item and want somebody. That's fair. Life isn't fair. That's a reasonable retort to that. If you do a Patreon only, I see a lot of patrons do a number of entries per tier. Oh, that's a good way to do it. That's very clever. So tier 1 gets 1 entry, tier 2 gets 2 entries. That feels like a kind way to approach that. I'll sit on that for a while too. That's a good one. Bourbon Moth puts his name in a hat and draws it during live stream. That feels like Jason. Let's see. I'm nodding my head as if you can see me. I appreciate that, Brian. Do you lose the grain match? Yeah, you do. You do lose the perfect grain match in here. But the reality is, like, in a perfect match, anytime you do a split lid, you're going to lose a perfect grain match because you're removing 1/8 of an inch. Here, you're removing 3/8 of an inch. So if you have something like this, which moves a lot over a short amount of distance, same over here, it's going to be a bit more obvious that the grain match isn't perfect. But if you're dealing with a straight timber, like what I would typically work with in something like this, let me find something. So this is a quartered cherry little panel, which I've made many a boxes from something like this. If I remove 3/8 of an inch in the middle of this board, nobody's going to know. So it's really just all about what material are you using and what's the most appropriate technique for the end you're trying to accomplish. Oh, let's see. You're headed home to New Jersey. All right, Jeremy. Okay. Where we at, buddy? You doing anything good for the holidays? Shaper Chef Shaper Sessions. I haven't even I'm a quarter of a whiskey deep and I can't even pronounce that. They have a spinning price wheel. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I'll be honest, I've never actually been on their live sessions, but that is good to know, Lewis. Thank you. It probably will fit a Stanley #1. That's a good one. Let's see. Am I done with commissions this year? Oh boy. So I I have been trying to clear my commission queue for the majority of this year. I've stopped taking commissions because when I started focusing on YouTube hard 2 years ago, I knew that filming made things take longer. Like that's just the nature of it. And I knew that from Instagram, and I've made YouTube videos in the past, but the content was always secondary to the object as far as priorities and as far as like just the financials of the business. So it wasn't that big a hindrance, but also I was putting out like maybe 4 to 6 videos a year. And then when I made the decision to focus on YouTube in the beginning of 2022, is that correct? When did the show come out? The show came out in 2022, so the beginning of 2023. That's right, because it's 2024 is the end of year 2. Okay. So when I made that decision, it just became I realized that that eats up the overwhelming majority of my time. And it's partially unfair to ask a client to wait a year and a half like these guys did to have a piece of furniture. And it's also partially just kind of draining to constantly have the thing hanging over your head. I mean, listen, part of that is just that's work. That's what a career is, I think. And I'm very lucky and grateful to have people who were willing to wait that long for a piece of furniture. But I think just creatively, it's draining to do that. So I made the decision not to take commissions anymore, at least for this period of time, to focus on speculation work, because I have a huge backlog of ideas that have been sitting in my brain for like 4 or 5 years that I haven't been able to make because of the commissions. So I'm excited to dive into those. I've got what I think are some really cool projects that I want to get to. And I know, given the pace of videos, it will probably realistically be, 3 to 4 pieces, like good pieces of furniture a year. And that's a pace I think is sustainable for the long term, but I can't do that kind of pace when I'm making the types of things that people want to pay me to make right now. So yeah, I'm stepping back from that. That was a very long-winded answer to your question, I think. Do a plane or a chisel that you restored. I love that idea. Would you ever consider making a Cocobolo tie? A Cocobolo bolo tie? No. But I really do. There's got to be a way to say that makes it worth doing, right? The Cocobolo tie. There's something there. I also don't really know what a Cocobolo or what a bolo tie. Are you just talking about like the little pendulum part? Something I could bang out on the shaper? Because that's a funny. I like that as a word. I should do that. Let's see. I've tried to do the same with resaw and split miter boxes with the grain wrap. Yeah, and the resaw plus the cleanup and the grain is completely off. That's if the board is rift sawn, that's going to happen. There's no way to avoid it. Adding a skinnier liner definitely does help. I usually don't make my liner any thicker than 1/4 of an inch, like at most. Sometimes a little bit thinner than that, maybe 3/16, depending on the size of the box, of course. No, Larissa's not in the house. That's my girlfriend. We actually, fun fact, I haven't said this publicly. We just got engaged very recently. Oh, she just smiled big at me. You can come over and say hi. And fun fact, thanks, friends. I
Hello, everybody.
So we knew it was gonna happen. She lives in Switzerland, so we knew it was gonna happen like now-ish. And the ring that I am designing and making with an actual jeweler is not ready yet. So I did actually make a wooden ring. So this is what I proposed to her with. And a couple of things. Number one, there was a lot of iterations and prototypes on this. So this ended up being, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but this ended up being a 7-ply made out of veneers. And then the center ply, I tried to hit the highlight of the sap line so that it kind of looks like a little bit of a gem. But even better than that, thank you, was we had a little engagement party when that happened. And, our dearest friends and a couple people from my family were there. And Keith Johnson is a very dear friend of mine. He lives hour and a half away. So he's there and we're hanging out, and he asked Sarah to see the ring. And what face did he make?
Oh, he was in shock. He didn't know, and he was just like, what do I say now?
Now, many of y'all know Keith, and I love Keith so dearly. He's a little bit of an anxious boy sometimes, and I love when he gets tripped up. So him seeing that ring and just not knowing how to like react appropriately to it made
It was.
Thank you. So that's what's going on. She was lovely on the podcast the other day. A lot of people were telling me that was their favorite ad read, which it was absolutely a phenomenal ad read. I did take a little offense to that because the Christmas Hallmark movie ad read, personally, I thought it was pretty great. Let's see. So is that why she wants to make engagement ring boxes? Oh, listen, it was, I'm sure that definitely had some influence on it. It was 100% accurate and very genuine on the podcast when she said she loves love. This girl loves love, man. So I think that's where that stems from too. Let's see. Did you propose on the mountain before tackling a double black diamond trail? No, I didn't. Oh, guys, you found a winner of a partner when you go skiing with them and they watch you absolutely physically destroy yourself for 6 straight hours and constantly are both checking on you to make sure that you're physically and emotionally okay, but then also able to just laugh at the absolute idiocy that was taking place. So thank you. Thanks, Lee. I think, the facets on the ring, like I said, it was a lot of prototypes. I literally just got rid of the prototypes yesterday, 2 days ago. It did some solid wood compositions that I think worked really well, but the short grain issues, it was not going to be durable. I tried to stabilize them with penetrating epoxy, didn't work the way I hoped it would. And then I did some laminations with like rosewood, but it was too dark. And then I did a lamination with 3-ply of holly in the middle. It just looked like an Oreo. And then I also did one iteration that I ended up giving to her as kind of a second ring, where it's a single holly lamination in there, and it looks really cool. But because the lamination in the light spot runs all the way through, it just has a very different vibe. So I think the movement on that ring is actually pretty nice. Not to congratulate myself too much on that, but I was happy to give her a thing that I at least felt like was a nice thing. Thanks, friends. I appreciate all the congrats. Vicky made the ad read almost pornographic. She has a way with her, man. She has a way of doing that. It was a strong one. It was honestly a strong one. Let's see. Oh, all right. I got to finish this so I can at least pour one in the OG too. So far, 10 out of 10 for the new mug. That's a good one. Also, I have another face mug, and I feel terrible because I use it periodically. It's a lovely, lovely mug. And I can't, for the life of me, remember who sent it to me. So I'm going to grab it. This mug, it was made by somebody who watches the YouTube. I don't know if they're a patron. If you are a patron, if you happen to be on this call, please let me know, because like it's a fantastic mug, and I always shout out David because he does fantastic work, and obviously, but like I always feel bad because I never give whoever made this their credit, and I can't quite make out the signature on there. It's like Kenzie Tarpley, maybe something like that. So I got to figure out who made this because it's a lovely piece. But that said, are there any other questions that folks have they want to talk about life or woodworking or what's going on? I feel like I've beat this cabinet and beat the snot out of that thing. I said beat a dead horse earlier, and Sarah was like, I don't know what that means. So if you guys aren't normally on the calls, we can certainly talk about that cabinet a little bit. I can show you what's going on with that. But I know in our normal monthly calls, I feel like I've been making it since September. So, I've been beating a dead horse. But other than that, on the other side of the new year, I'm going to start making a door for a client down in Texas, which I'm excited to get busy on, because he, again, has just been so bloody patient. And I really am excited to get this thing done for him. He's a lovely guy. I've had coffee. He's been in town a couple of times. I've had coffee with him before. And he's been great. Like when he approached me about it, I basically was like, I don't know if I have the creative energy to take on another commission. I was like, if I do, would you be willing to let me do it as a collaboration with somebody, specifically Larissa, because we already share a shop? And he was like, dude, whatever you want to do. I was like, amazing. So that's going to be a really fun one. And also, sidebar, Larissa and I, we haven't announced it yet, and I'm not going to promote it for a while after it launches, because we want the ability to kind of be bad at it first as we learn and find our own groove. But Larissa and I are launching a YouTube channel in January. It's going to be a monthly thing mostly, but it's going to be kind of what I hope it will be is she and I have very different viewpoints on how to do things because we came up very differently in the craft. And I think that will be a really valuable thing for folks to hear kind of the conversations about, like, even as something as simple as like, how do we cut a big mortise and tenon for an entryway door? She does it one way, I do it another way. So I think there's a lot of value to be added to the conversation in the kind of the YouTube space. So let's see. I introduced that in one of my videos. Oh, this guy, you mean? Yeah, for sure. I wish I could remember who made it. Recommendations for workshops for beginner woodworkers. Ooh, James, that's a good question. I am a big believer in like going to classes, finding some of the schools that offer really deep woodworking education. And I don't mean like, listen, there's nothing against like the woodcraft class. If that's all you have in your area, or if that's all you can afford because woodworking is an expensive hobby, like that's better than nothing. Go take those. But those are often 1 day, 2 day classes. They're having taught them in the past, they're not super well vetted. They're not super well structured. So I highly recommend making the investment if you have the ability to go to a place like CFC, go to a place like the Florida School of Woodworking, go to a place like Mark Adams, and take a week-long or a 2-week-long class. It's more expensive. It is a major investment, but the amount that you will learn from the people who teach at those institutions is immeasurable. You'll get people like the Adrian Fairzutis of the world, the Phil Morleys of the world, the Aspen Golans of the world, the Larissa Huffs of the world, like the people who are doing things that actually push the craft forward and who also are phenomenal teachers. Those are the people to learn from, in my opinion. So that said, it's less what classes to take and more where to take those classes. The quality of the institution is a direct parallel to the quality of the education, I think. So like I said, CFC, the Center for Furniture Craftsmanship, Florida School of Woodworking, Mark Adams, Rosewood School of Woodworking, Connecticut Valley School of Woodworking. I don't know if North Bennett Street offers short-term classes. I know they offer like weekend workshops, I think. They're in Boston. They're worth looking into. Where else off the top of my head? Pocosin down south. Why can't I think of where my buddy Rob teaches? Somewhere in Kentucky. It'll come to me. But those are the places to go, like the actual proper craft schools, I think. Let's see. Is this the year that the Bills get the hardware? Lee, listen, buddy. Y'all may know that I'm a Jets fan. I know. It hurts. It hurts. It hurt last year. It hurt this year. It has hurt all 37 years I've been alive on this planet. However, I'm all in on the Bills. I am all in on a Bills-Detroit Super Bowl. And there is a part of me that deeply wants Detroit to win a ship because they deserve one, because, like the classic underdog story. But also, God damn it, if nobody deserves a ring more than Josh Allen, like, the man is playing and has played like Superman for a number of years in a row. And this is like, it's like before Peyton had a ring, except like Josh Allen is somehow, he's a different player entirely from Peyton Manning, but like he's more electric and he's just so goddamn lovable. I'm pulling for the Bills. I am. Door. Yeah, I'm doing a door for a client down in Texas. And that is why I built that door a year and a half ago, because we had started talking about doing a large entryway door. So that tells you how long people are waiting for commissions nowadays. When's the podcast field trip to the Shaker Village in New Hampshire? Legitimately, we're going to try to do that. Like that is a real thing that we have on the docket for maybe like springtime next year. I think that would be a ton of fun. Did you get the doors unwarped? Yeah. Yeah. I was really surprised at how well the Super Soft worked. So these doors, they were, the twist was really bad in them. And I soaked them in Super Soft. And I think that penetrated both veneers, right? So there's the poplar veneer and the maple veneer, or the birch veneer rather. And that soaked through both of them and enough into the MDF where I could over twist it and let it dry for, I mean, it took like 5-6 days, but it did work. So that is a thing that is good to know for the future. Shaker Village in New Hampshire. Yeah. I mean, we're going to make it happen. Oh, let's see. Totally dig watching a door being made. I have been thinking of redoing the entryway doors to our house for years now. Honestly, it's easier than you think it is. And like, I think I said this in the video when I made the shop door, or at least the video surrounding that. One of the guys that I worked for early on in my career was named Rob Hare. He's a phenomenal sculptor and a wonderful human being. You should look up his work because it's impressive. He's more of a sculptor than he is a furniture maker, but he's an excellent furniture maker. His name's Rob Hare, Hare. He's up in the Hudson Valley in New York. And he did an entryway door for a theater, like a pair of double doors that were 9 or 10 feet tall and like 5 feet wide, both. And he did them in like the 80s, maybe. And 20 to 25 years later, the theater moved and they asked him to come and remove the doors and install them in the new theater. And one of them fell off the truck in transit, and in these big mahogany doors, and it shattered everywhere. He was on the highway doing 80 miles an hour, and the door just exploded. Except the joints that he biscuited and epoxied together. Those were intact. The rest of the door shattered. So like, like it's just big sticks that you'd glue together at a 90-degree angle. And that was where my theory stemmed from, that more glue surface over more leverage with contemporary glues was more important. I don't know that holds, but that's where I developed that theory. Let's see. Larissa's class at Wendell Castle. You should absolutely go take. That's another good one. Thank you. They're brand spanking new, so I forgot about them. I don't remember the name of the school, but it's at Wendell Castle's old workshop. Absolutely worth taking. Let's see. Need to immerse yourself and absorb. Agreed. My community college has great classes. I've not got to take them, but I hear good things. Community colleges are another really excellent avenue. I always forget about those. There's one in Lancaster, Bucks County Community College, where Steve Latta either taught or continues to teach, but he was there for like 20 something years. And like they're doing fantastic work. So absolutely, that's worth checking out. Connecticut Valley is great. North Bennett Street sure has approximately week-long classes. Phenomenal. Go take classes at North Bennett Street. Wood and Shop has great hand tool classes. I don't know where that's at. Bills and Lions would be the best. I mean, that's going to be the best game, man. Let's see. Let's wrap it up. Way delayed response. September. You were starting the cabinet back in July when I picked up the tables. Yeah. Let's put it this way. This is how long commissions have taken recently. Now, in fairness, part of the reason it's taken that long is because I've been dating a girl who lives in Switzerland for the last 2.5 years. So like that takes up a lot of time. She's giving me a look now. That does take up a lot of time though, in fairness. But yes, I ordered the veneers in May and I shot them a text in June and I said, I'm starting the commission. And then I think, Jeremy came and picked up the table saw in July. But July was like, I was in Switzerland. I went, traveled a couple other places. There was something else going on. And I try to take an extended period off during the summer to, like recuperate. And then I was teaching. The summer is usually packed with teaching. And then I, in earnest, started the cabinet when I got back from my last teaching stint in the beginning of September. So it was like the second week of September that I actually started building the damn thing. So it's not Sarah's fault, in fairness, Michael, but she's giving me one of those. All right, friends. It is a Friday night and it is December. We'll end on this. Here's what I want to say. You guys have been incredible this year, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. This was the amount of growth that I had this year was pretty incredible, but more than that, the quality of growth that I had was really meaningful, and I'm deeply grateful to you all for that. Because the reality is, like, there's no guarantees when you decide to make things out of wood for a living that you're going to be able to do it, that you're going to make it. And there's no guarantees that I'll continue to make it. That's how the world works. And making it in the world of the internet is a difficult thing because people are mean, and it gets to you sometimes. But having kind of that tangible proof that people take a lot of value out of the work that I'm doing, both in wood and on the content side of things, the things that I'm putting on the internet, is, I know that some people feel like it's a little bit of a burden to have a Patreon because they feel like they owe patrons things. And I try to be mindful to give you guys updates and in-depth stories and talk about techniques that I wouldn't put videos out necessarily on. But it's never, ever felt like a burden. It's always been a thing that feels like a community of people who are here to support me and see me succeed, and see you guys in the chat with one another and kind of lift each other up and see each other succeed. That's deeply meaningful. And I appreciate you all for doing that. So keep on keeping on. And I hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas. I hope everybody's Hanukkah has started off wonderfully. I hope you have a lovely new year. And I'm excited to do some cool shit in the new year. So be good, make good decisions as always. And till next year, go make a thing. And I'll catch you then. Thanks for coming.